everybody. Welcome to Called Up the Prospects podcast. I am Chris Peters of FloHockey, and we are so glad to have you and so glad to be joined by, as always, my partner in Cam as well, Cam Robinson of EliteProspects. Cam, how are you, buddy?
Partner in Crime Robinson. Yeah, I'm doing well, buddy. It's we're here. We're here. Hockey's back. Summer's over. Fall is upon us.
It's great. We got so much to talk about today. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to talk a little bit. Hey, we talked a lot about guys in the NHL training camps. There were a couple that we didn't talk about that we're going to talk about today. We're going to check in on NHL training camps. We're going to preview this college hockey season, which could be maybe the most anticipated college hockey season of my lifetime. Really excited to get into that. We're going to preview that as well. And we're going to get into our regular segments, Called Up Challenge, Beyond Belief. You have to pick one. We've got a lot of things. But before we get into all of that, we want to pause for a second for a word from us here at FloHockey.
Hockey hits harder on Flo. The AHL, the ECHL, the USHL, the O, the Q. So don't just watch hockey, live it. Get your annual Flo subscription now.
Oh, yeah. You know what else hits harder? Called Up the Prospects podcast when we are in actual season mode, my friend, because we had the launch of the QMJHL and the OHL last week. Super exciting. We saw the season debut of the USHL. Super exciting there. We saw some guys from the USHL actually play in NHL training camps, which has never happened before, but that's the era that we live in. And we're talking training camps. And that's where we're going to start today, Cam. We're going to talk about NHL training camps. This is the part of the camp where the rubber really meets the road, where a lot of players have been sent back to their junior teams. Some of the notables, Kayshawn Aitchison, Jake O'Brien, Merrick Vanacker, a few guys that were first round draft picks. And but there will be more to come. But there are a lot of guys that haven't been sent back and may not be sent back. And we had one of our listeners reached out on Twitter and was like clockwork, you knew Brady Martin was going to do something. We did talk about him last week. I want to talk about him again. He scored 2 goals in a game against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Does that at all change your opinion on what Brady Martin should do this season?
I responded to that comment. It's just too easy to call. It's too easy to call. It's like calling the goalie run on day 2 of the draft, right? It's just too easy. No, it doesn't change anything. But I guess if he goes out and scores 2 goals a game, maybe that'll change my opinion of it. But like you said, this is where the rubber meets the road and we start to whittle down, right? Waivers today, first day of waivers. We're seeing guys getting sent down that way. This is going to be busy season on waivers too. But like, as you mentioned, junior guys are getting sent back to junior. 20-year-olds are getting sent to the American League. We're going to start to see that. And now our preseason games won't be, one club dressing 80% NHL regulars and one club dressing 90% non-NHLers. We're going to actually start to see some real lines and some real teams playing against each other. And if you can continue as a young player to show that you can keep up with the pace of physicality and chip in offensively, you're going to get looks. You're going to make that team out of camp, or they're going to hold an extra body that they can, or they're going to send one of their younger guys who's waiver eligible to go up and down easily and give you those chances in the regular season. And so, yeah, a kid like Brady Martin, we've said it all along, his style of play, his physicality is going to look very good at training camp, especially on a team that's light on center. So he's doing what he has to do, and I expect he's going to see some NHL games to start the season.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he breaks camp with the team. I wouldn't have been surprised before training camp started. Again, it comes back to what ultimately is the best thing for Brady Martin in the long term, and I think that staying with the Predators, to me, isn't necessarily the best case scenario for his development, especially the offensive elements of his game. Yes, he had 2 goals in a preseason game. Yes, it was a preseason game. And I think that that's always something that, it's something to remember. It's something for GMs to think about, and it's something to see how this young man competes. He was scoring goals from tough areas as well. So, I mean, that helps, the fact that he can stand in there. I've never worried about Brady Martin's ability to withstand the grind of the NHL. I have worried about, his ability to create in time and space and other things like that, which I still, there were questions of that even in junior. So I think there's more that he can gain by going back. But, I think regardless of how you feel about where he should go next, where he's at right now is very good. And certainly I think, if you want to give him that few games in the NHL, I think that's great. I don't think it's, long term, maybe not the move. But there is a player that is at least turning heads. And I was following along, and any little nugget of news in Vancouver is always going to be readily available to anyone in the league. It is always going to get a lot of attention. And that is why we love these passionate hockey markets. And we're talking about Braden Coots. Braden Coots, picked in the first round last year, has the chance to go back to junior should they want to send him that way. Certainly the way that both you and I think probably entering camp thought could go. But we didn't talk about him last time. Obviously, we're talking about him now. Cam, you're in the market. You're around that media ecosystem. Give me the lowdown on the Braden Coots hype, and where do you land on where things stand with Coots right now?
So I do a regular hit on Sekeres and Price in Vancouver there, and this is all over the city, right? Like and I talked about it on that show, is that it was easy to forecast because Braden Coots has NHL speed. He is a talented two-way guy. Like defensively, he's responsible. He knows where to be. Even though he's not the biggest guy, he has that IQ. He has that speed. And like Nashville and Brady Martin, he's a center on a club that is light on centers. And so naturally, he stood out in kind of rookie camp, and now he's come to main camp, and he's standing out again with that great speed and his willingness to get in on the forecheck. And all of a sudden, everybody's watching this, and they're saying this kid's going to make the roster, and he's going to be a superstar. And it's like if we never learn from history, we're destined to repeat it. And Vancouver has done this multiple times. They did it with Jake Virtanen. They did it with Jared McCann. I think they did it the same year that year where they forced two 18-year-olds onto the roster to the detriment of both of them. And I get it that this season means so much for the club because they have to do everything in their power to prove to Quinn Hughes that this is like a viable contender for a long time, and maybe injecting an 18-year-old center who can actually produce would be a good part in that too. Be like, look at our future, and it's right here, right now. But you can't mess with this kid because his ultimate upside is going to depend on development. And he's 18 years old. He's going to be the captain in Seattle. He's not even a lock to make the World Junior team, I wouldn't say. I mean, if he keeps this trajectory going, he'll have a very good chance. He'd probably make it, but there's still plenty left for him to prove at the junior level. And then next year, he'll be 19. He'll fall into that new funny little rule. Maybe he goes to the American League next year, or maybe he's ready for the NHL next year, but just don't rush it. But again, I do expect there's a good chance that he's going to see some NHL ice to start the season.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting. And I agree. Like, I feel like people have amnesia and you don't think about things. I mean, the Sabres have done this on an annual basis. A lot of teams have fallen into the trap. And I will tell you, whether that player is ready or you think he's ready or not, the vast majority of the odds I would put on that player not being ready. And I like Braden Coots a lot. I love the way that he approaches the game. I think that he has got a lot of talent, but that's a guy that we were talking about. Maybe he's one of those hybrid kind of should go to college kind of players.
Yeah.
So that was another thing, like that was kind of one of those things. And I, granted, again, you look at these players, did he outright dominate the dub last year? And if the answer is no, which it is in this case,
point of game guy,
it doesn't hurt him at all to go back. This isn't Berkeley Catton we're talking about, who's now had 3 years of just outright productive dominance where the push is not going to, he's not getting pushed at that level. But again, there are so few players that I think can actually make that jump. And it's not a problem if he doesn't. And that's the biggest thing. It's like, don't let the hype get you disappointed when a player doesn't make the team, because it's obviously almost very, very often the correct decision to send them back. It is very rarely the correct decision to leave them there, if there's any glimmer of doubt. And I think in a player like Braden Coots, there would. All right, we also can't talk about the NHL preseason without talking about the back check heard around the world from Matthew Schaefer, the #1 overall pick. The least surprising thing that I could have seen in a preseason game from Matthew Schaefer was winning a foot race against Matvei Michkov from 2 zones away.
Money in the bank.
There are 2 things at play here. One is Matthew Schaefer is a tremendous skater, elite skater. It was always one of his, if not his best attributes. Number 2, Matvei Michkov. Not the strongest skater. However, it does not take away anything about how impressive Matthew Schaefer looked. And when you see that young man in full stride, holy smokes. And obviously that impressed everybody. Aside from that, any other takeaways from Matthew Schaefer? And what did you see when you watched that highlight over and over and over again, like so many of us did?
And I clipped it and I showed it to my kid and I was like, that's how you skate. That is how you skate right there, right? Like that was picture perfect. And that was not at the beginning of his shift. I also love that he recognized before it even happened that he was like down near the net front and he put his head down and already had like 3 hard strides before the pass was even going to Michkov for the breakaway. He read it and was like, time to go. And just like, you know, Patrick Waugh saying maybe that's the best back check I've ever seen. That's Patrick Waugh saying that. Like Matt Barzell saying this kid's going to be, you know, one of the best defensemen in the league in a couple of years. The Chiclet boys giving double wristers. Like the whole scene. I love all the glory just being showered upon Matty Schaefer. And my best one, I tweeted it out there too, is I had a team side source and I asked him, can I tweet this? Because this is going to get fire. Is that he said this kid might be a top pair defenseman right out the box. And it's like, it is preseason. And it was Matvei Michkov, but he is so talented, and I just love the kid so much that I'm hoping that he does just pop right away and really just like solidifies himself as that. Not only is he a first overall pick, but he's a real first overall pick.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't like, you know, I don't like throwing cold water on the hype. I don't think it, but like what I will say is that play, while so impressive, like I said, it was like the least surprising thing about his game. And your point about him reading, he was deep, which is what I think you want him. You want him to get deep into the zone. You want him to jump into plays. You don't want him to fear
green light,
because players like him do have that recovery ability that is that probably bought him so much leeway with Patrick Waugh in terms of, if he takes chances, he can probably make up for it on you know, with his skating. So that's not surprising. What I think is going to be necessary to see, not just in the preseason, but as we get into these NHL games, the pace of his decisions with the puck on his stick, that's going to be a real critical thing for me. The how he absorbs pressure in the defensive zone is going to be another thing where it's just going to take some time. Players are not going to go easy on him. He, you know, and he can handle himself. I have no worries about him holding up, you know, structurally. Obviously he's got injury issues, but they've been, you know, I think it'll be fine overall, but there is plenty for him still to work on. And so, like, could he be a top pairing defenseman out of the gate? Well, heck, they might need him to be, you know, like they might need him to be at this point. So if that happens, then, you know, that's great. But if it's too much too soon, like, again, you just worry about it. I don't think there's any doubt for me that, you know, Matthew Schaefer is going to be there the whole season. It's going to be a good thing for him. It's going to be, you know, he's going to learn. He's going to take his lumps too. But, you know, again, these moments in time in preseason, especially when it comes to prospects, you have to take it with at least a small grain of salt. Don't allow yourself. It is totally fine to be excited about Matthew Schaefer. You should be excited about Matthew Schaefer. But again, there's a lot more that's going to have to be seen as we move on from there. But, you know, I'm not sure. You know, there are plenty of obviously prospects that are still in camps right now. Guys that we'll look at. You know, I know that we've heard from Zane Parekh and you know, others that are still in there. Misa, you know, they've had good moments. You know, so I think we'll still see that. We're gonna circle back to this conversation when we get to our Beyond Belief segment, especially when it pertains to guys from the 2025 NHL Draft, because there are a lot of intrigue. There's a lot of intrigue that's happening right now across camps, and we'll keep watching it. And when those guys do get sent back to junior, odds are you're going to be able to watch them on FloHockey, which is a great thing. Like we'll be able to see, you know, Jake O'Brien this weekend, and I wonder if we'll see Kayshawn Aitchison. And one other thing before we move on from the training camp thing that I did want to talk about, I forgot to put in the rundown, but Caleb Heil, USHL goalie, played in a preseason game, played the third period overtime in a shootout of a preseason game, plays for the Madison Capitals in the USHL. It is believed that is the first time that's happened where a current USHL player has played in an NHL game and then returned. He was sent back the next day to Madison. Now, Cam, he is committed to North Dakota, but not there yet. None of the college players went to NHL camps this year, but a number of USHL players did. Some of them missed the Fall Classic because of it, including Heil. And so Heil is now, but how about this, Cam? He goes into the shootout, and who do the Tampa Bay Lightning send over the boards? This is the same game where, or the Nashville Predators, send over the boards. And this was the same game that Brady Martin scored 2 goals in, but Heil was not in net at that point. Caleb Heil, they send over Philip Forsberg, Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault. You've got a Rocket Richard winner. You've got a Conn Smythe Trophy winner. You've got a perennial All-Star. And Tampa won the shootout, and he didn't allow a goal.
What an experience!
How do you go back? Like they're playing Dubuque and Madison on Friday night. You're going up like, how does that work? It's unbelievable. I mean, it's just incredible to see. So that's the new era, though. That's where we're at right now. These possibilities can now happen. It's crazy.
It is crazy, and like, watch out for that trap game against Dubuque, right? Because he's going to be coming in there being like, these guys are slow.
Yeah, exactly. And Dubuque scored 15 goals at the Fall Classic, so in 2 games. Maybe don't take that.
They got some firepower. Yeah.
Oh man, but that's crazy. Cool, so yeah, it is cool. We're gonna talk a little bit about the college hockey in a little bit, but before we get to that, Cam, I did want to spend a little time on the 2026 NHL Draft, especially because Elite Prospects put their preliminary draft list. Of course, you're part of Elite Prospects. This is the list you're part of. And we're going to throw up the top 10 that we saw from this class. And this is from you guys, from your initial list that came out. And there's obviously every single time you're going to see these lists, you're going to have agreements and disagreements. But let's start here. Obviously, we know Gavin McKenna number 1, but then it gets interesting after that because there's plenty of debate and good debate there. Ivar Stenberg. He comes in at number 2 on this list. You've got Keaton Verhoeff 3, Ryan Lynn at 4, Ethan Belchetz at 5, Tynan Lawrence at 6, Mathis Preston 7, Daxon Rudolph 8, Xavier Villeneuve 9, and Ryan Rubrick, who has been one of those guys that's really climbed up the list, is at number 10. So Cam, let's first talk a little bit, and you can give us a little bit of insight into the process here. Of how Ivar Stenberg ends up ahead of Keaton Verhoeff, which, again, this isn't me saying it's right or wrong. It's more that is obviously different than what the consensus has been so far. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, so it was an interesting debate, and I should mention too that Ryan Lynn was right in that debate too for that second overall spot. So those 3 guys were really
so let's talk about that too.
Yeah, we're ahead of the group, and we're with these preseason boards, right? These preliminary lists, it's like you want to start out with a base, and then you work from there. And so the base we were looking at, Ivar is so old for this draft class and has accomplished so much, and he's a little more well-rounded than everybody else. We have like a very strong base to work with this player. He's playing in the SHL, he's playing strong minutes, he's getting points. He's accomplished a ton internationally. Keaton Verhoeff, it's like he's very young for this class. So it's a lot of projection. It's a lot of size. There's a lot of tools there, going to a new program, a lot of uncertainty in Keaton right now too. But, to a man, we're all, very interested in the upside there, right? That projection. And then Ryan Lynn, I think, I don't want to speak for anybody else, but might be, our favorite player in this class, that isn't Gavin McKenna, is that just because he is so sturdy in everything he does, right? Offensively, defensively, skating, he's just missing a couple inches on the measuring tape. And so those guys, it came down to, our Swedish guy really likes Ivar, obviously. We like all these players a lot, but at the end of the day, we felt that putting the elder winger just slightly ahead of that big right shot D, and then not getting too crazy on Rylan too early, putting him at 2 to start the season out where he's a little bit undersized versus a guy like Verhoeff in a really defense heavy class. So we're not playing it safe, but we're setting ourselves up because these boards are going to change significantly throughout the season, as they should.
Yeah, exactly. I think the preseason list is always, we're setting up a baseline. We've got, limited information with a lot of information, the most important information yet to come. Players will rise and fall as that information gets collected. And I think that that's the thing about these things is that, when you look at a guy like Ryan Lynn in particular, who you guys end up having number 4 here, and I think that was actually really, in terms of, basically let's not go there yet, but let's at least put him in the mix with the Verhoeffs and the Stenbergs and all that. Like, I think for him, that's, he could end up in that range, and it's going to be interesting too, because you've also got Villeneuve, who's I think kind of one of those guys that doesn't have those measurables similar to Lynn that NHL teams love. But you got 2 of those guys in the top 10, and I think it's very reasonable for both of them to be in the top 10 at this point, because of the special nature of their puck moving capabilities, the offensive nature. I think in Lynn's case, a better defensive track record than Villeneuve, but that, and those things matter. So I'm fascinated to see that. But beyond that, on the other end of the spectrum, if you guys were playing it safe, completely safe, you would probably think Rubrick would be higher. Why is he? And again, I think when people see lists and you say, well, this guy who was number 3 is not on this list, is number 10 on this list, that gap isn't, and I think especially in this class in the top 10, once you kind of get away from McKenna, the gaps start to narrow between these players. So it may not be that wide of a gulf, but I don't want to speak for you guys. Talk to me a little bit about Rubrick at 10.
Yeah, so I know that he's listed as a center on a lot of sites. He hasn't played really any center in the last couple of years.
Right.
He is a winger. He's a goal-scoring winger. And I think it's come down to, kind of consistency and IQ with him. So he obviously has a ton of skill as a goal scorer first and foremost, and just as a general kind of a power forward there too. He has that upside, but he also has these big lapses in judgment, these lapses in error that have continued to bleed into his game and haven't really, even at the start of the season, like his opening game there in the O there, like, wasn't anything to write home about. And now we're looking for a big season out of him. I like to look at him, and kind of compare him against Porter Martone, right? We had Martone at the U18s as, the end of his draft -1, and he was dominant, right? He was there the year before that too. Right. And put up tons and tons of points. Where Rubrick, we were there in Texas last year. He didn't do all that much, right? He didn't really step up despite having the 40-goal OHL season. So we're just looking for some more consistency and some more wherewithal from him on a nightly basis. And if he can prove that, then I think that the risk on that player reduces significantly. But you don't want to end up having one of these guys that ends up going 5, 6, 7, and then it just doesn't get it at the next level. And he does kind of set off those alarm bells just a tad with the group.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. And yeah, you look at him, 41 goals last season. He's the highest scoring player coming into the draft year. So naturally he's going to be high on a lot of lists, right? Because of the data that we have on the player. And I'm not necessarily going to disagree with that. I think that, he's higher on my personal list, but I think that some of the concerns that you raise are completely valid. You look at other things and I would agree, the first couple of games this season, not as noticeable as you would probably want a guy who's being talked about as a top 3 pick to be, especially when so many teams are missing best players because of players at camp. And Niagara was one of those teams that was missing a number of players as well. So, sometimes you're not playing with your regular line mates, so it's tough to judge that too. But I do think that there's a lot to be there. And then, the other thing too, the guy that I keep looking at on every single list, and he's hovered right around the same place, and we've talked about him a lot, is Cayden Lindstrom. And that lack of centers, the lack of premium centers in this class, he's one of those guys where it's like, if there is a spot for him to potentially move up. So before we move on to our next phase here, where did you guys kind of come out in Cayden Lindstrom and how he ended up in where he did at number 6, which is, again, very common placement for him on a lot of these lists?
Yeah. So, up against the defensemen there in Verhoeff and Lynn, they're also a desirable position need that teams will focus on and will lean into. And then Belchez, he kind of rose up into that spot. Just like, he is so unique, and his potential to be this monster power winger at the net front, just be a menace. That uniqueness kind of just edged him ahead. And then Lawrence, though, like, everybody sees in the EP crew, like what you see and what most people see with this kid is that, it's a center light class, and he is a center who can bring a lot of tools, a lot of speed, a lot of skill to the game. He didn't pop at the Holinka, but we saw, the pudding there last year in the USHL. And I'll mention this too. I have my scout poll coming out tomorrow morning, where I polled a whole host of NHL scouts. Cayden Lawrence is going to be very high on that list. There's some spicy takes on that list, and Cayden Lawrence is certainly one of them. So at least a handful of NHL teams are definitely looking at how few centers there are in this class and being like, you want one? You better grab this kid very early.
Yeah, that's one of the things I look for right away is where is that next guy in that premium position, and why we could, we talked about in our Beyond Belief not too long ago about could there be 5 defensemen taken in the top 10, and it absolutely could happen due to the fact that, again, you're talking about so many wings in this class, and so that's another thing. But yeah, I think that'll be fun to watch. But boy, the 2026 draft class, it's just starting to get going. And we're going to talk about a bit about some of the next group and obviously some of these top players, because we're going to talk about college hockey. And Cam, the 2026 NHL draft, scouting season is going to feature a lot of people in State College, Pennsylvania, in Grand Forks, North Dakota, in Ann Arbor, Michigan. There are going to be a number of draft eligible players. There's even some guys that'll probably go a little bit later. Guys like Ilya Morozov, who is at Miami, who you probably haven't heard a lot about this draft class, but he accelerated to go to school a year early and is at Miami University. Big time recruit for them. Good season, not amazing. I thought he underwhelmed towards the end of the season, but that's a player with some upside. But there's a lot in college hockey, and not just in the draft eligible players. This is definitely the most anticipated recruiting class in the history of college hockey. You've got the potential number 1 pick. You've got the potential number 2 pick. You've got other first rounders. You've got guys that have gone top 5 in previous drafts, and they're all at, big time programs for the most part. So the way I figured that we could do this, Cam, today is talk a little bit about point totals and finding age comparables, to some of these players. It might not be 1-to-1 position or size or anything, but I was thinking about ways to kind of set an over-under for point totals this year, because I think a lot of people have talked about it in terms of what players are going to produce this year with the expectation that we're going to see numbers that we've never seen before, when really I think there is often a ceiling on where freshman production can go. But let's get into it. And obviously the one guy, and we're going to spend a little extra time talking about these players as well, not just the over-under, but let's go with our number 1 guy, number 1 prospect coming into the year. Obviously a tremendous career in the WHL, incredibly productive season last year. And that, of course, is Gavin McKenna, now of Penn State University. And Gavin McKenna, Cam, this is where I'm going. So when Adam Fantilli, who was a draft eligible as an overager, as a late birth date, that's why I didn't pick Celebrini for this one, just so everybody's aware. Adam Fantilli had 65 points for the University of Michigan. He also won the Hobey Baker that year. So my over-under for Gavin McKenna is that Adam Fantilli, 65 points. What do you think? Is he over or is he under?
65 and a Hobey. No pressure, Gav. Hey? Oh, my goodness. That was such a monster year from Fantilli. He was so good. Oh, I've been, like you said earlier, I don't like to pour cold water on things. I like to get the hype train going. I run on enthusiasm. I'm an ideas man, but I do think that we need to bubble wrap McKenna just a tad. I'm going to take the under, but not by much. Okay. I think 60 is within reach for sure. Could he do 66, 67? Yeah, he could. He's that talented, but it's going to be a big transition. He's going to be playing with good players at a really good program, but let's call it 60 to be safe. I'm taking the under.
Yeah, I'm also taking the under. But I will say that I think it is going to get close. For the record, Celebrini was at 64 points in his freshman season. Eichel, I believe, was at 71. true freshman, and yes, and he was, basically younger than true freshman. So that was kind of a crazy thing. We do have some guys that accelerated, and I'm using them as examples in further ones. But the other thing is Adam Fantilli also had, if I remember correctly, played an awful lot over the course of that season. It was usually one of Gavin Brindley, Rutger McGroarty. Like he had some high-end line mates that were able to really, help bolster that production. While I think McKenna is going to have really good line mates and guys that are going to help him score, I don't know that they're going to be at the caliber of what Fantilli had at the collegiate level. But I will say the other thing that I think about a lot is the schedule. Penn State traditionally has played the weakest non-conference schedule of any major Division I team. It's been among the weakest, and it is going to be fairly weak again this year. But it's not, but it's still college hockey. You're still playing against players that are sometimes 24, 25 years old. Just because you're playing teams from lesser conferences or lower conferences or whatever, doesn't mean it's going to be automatic. McKenna will also miss time for the World Juniors, which is, that also happened for Fantilli. So it also happens. So those are the things, but I think slightly under 65 seems reasonable. Before we move on from McKenna, as we've kind of gotten into this, one of the things that I've absolutely noticed about McKenna is he's been very out front. Penn State is pushing him out there a lot in terms of, their social media presence, all this other thing. I mean, you're already seeing the benefits of a Gavin McKenna being a Penn State Nittany Lion. We've talked about it before, but I wonder at some point if we may be underselling how important this is going to be for their program. And I don't know if you can do that, because we were all saying like this is going to change everything for them. But again, the question I still have is it going to be enough to help them win a national championship this year? And we'll show you in a little bit where they fall on the national polls. But I mean, just in terms of like, am I like, this seems like just a seminal moment for college hockey in this country, does it not?
Yeah, and especially for Penn, right? That they land the big fish, right? I was on this Penn State podcast just the other day, Roar Lions Roar, and I think that they primarily talk about football, but they shifted gears to talk to me about Gavin McKenna, and they're basically like, tell us, everyone's saying we should be excited, but we don't know why. Tell us all about this kid. And so, there is buzz. They just don't really know the sport as well. And so the hype is definitely growing, and you see them marketing him, like you said, right? Like he is a very marketable piece. So yes, they backed up the Brinks truck to get him, and now he's going to pay that all back and then some this season as he dominates, and he's the full barns, and everybody's going to be interested in checking out and watching those games and talking about this kid. And so it's gonna help them recruit in future years. It's going to do all sorts of good for their program.
I think so too. And I think the other thing that strikes me about all that is how Gavin is putting himself out there too. Like he is showing more of his personality. He's clearly having fun. Like that's the other thing. Like, and you love to see that too, right? You want a player to make a decision that's going to benefit them. Yes. But you also want to see them enjoy the process. And there have been so many times, and there were times certainly when you felt like maybe Connor Bedard was wearing it a little bit heavier, but he still performed on the ice. It never affected his on ice performance. You can see other guys where it's just like, they relish it. Other guys shrink from it. It seems like he's got that appropriate balance for himself. And if you're Penn State, that's a huge benefit for a player that's willing to help you put your best foot forward. But he is not going to be the only draft eligible in college hockey this year. And while this one, Keaton Verhoeff, we're going to talk about him, University of North Dakota. He is accelerating. You mentioned it earlier. He is one of the youngest. He'll probably be the youngest player in the draft class this year, or one of them. It's, depending on somebody's birthday a couple days later. Yeah. Savanto. There you go. See, I knew you'd come. I knew you'd have a poll. But anyway, we got Keaton Verhoeff, one of the youngest players in the NCAA. Well, he'll be the youngest player in the NCAA. He's going to be, young for the draft class. So there aren't a ton of guys that accelerate and play defense in the NCAA that also were first-round draft picks. However, one recent or semi-recent one is Zach Werenski. And Zach Werenski in his draft season had 25 points for the University of Michigan. At the University of North Dakota, will Keaton Verhoeff be over or under that 25 points that we saw Zach Werenski score last year, or his freshman year?
That was such a good season by Werenski too. Hey, like even though 25 points doesn't jump off the page, but I remember being like, this kid is so good and so young. The mobility, which is something that Verhoeff is still working on, that elite mobility. I'm taking the under. I don't think he's a lock for Team Canada to miss those games at the Worlds, at the World Juniors. Although I do think as soon as Parekh and Dickey and Schaefer don't come back, then Verhoeff is probably a lock for it. So he'll probably miss some of those games too. But no, I'm going to take the under. I don't think it's outrageous. He could end up with 10 goals, but I don't know. Let's take the under. But I think again, like with McKenna, I think it'll be pretty close.
Yeah, I think to me, 25 actually sounds close. Like I think I think he's going to get close to that number. I think I'm pushing on this one. I'm saying 25 is the number for him. The thing that I will say about Verhoeff in particular, is that I think that it's going to be a slow start for him. Not because of anything that he's done or wouldn't do. It's just, I think that the college hockey season and the schedule that North Dakota is playing this year is going to challenge him in such a way that he is going to have to adjust on the fly. I think by halfway through the season, he's going to be a very important piece for them. I think once they get into the meat of their conference schedule, he will have figured it out. He will have taken that next step. And I do think that he's going to find some level of success. And, Werenski is one of the guys that we could use. You could also look at Sasha Boisvert last season. Or not Sasha Boisvert. So I did this last time too. Sasha Boumediene last season played as a advanced, accelerated, got into Boston University last year. Start of the season, didn't have a great start, but by the end, he was a top 4 defenseman on a team that played for a national championship, losing to Western Michigan. Last season, he had 13 points. I think that Verhoeff is going to surpass that total fairly easily. But again, like you look at other guys, I think was, I believe Owen Power, who wasn't accelerated or not, he was a late birthday.
He was an older player, right? Yeah.
An older player in his draft year. He had 16 points. So, it's just kind of like, it's really hard.
He went one away.
And so like like Werenski at 25 points at 17 years old seemed insane at that time. Like, and I remember thinking like, why both he and Noah Hannafin accelerated out of the national team development program to go play college a year early. And it really hadn't happened. And both of them were awesome. Hannafin had 23 points in his draft season at Boston College. So really, really impressive. Obviously, both those players have turned into solid regular NHL defensemen. I think that will continue to happen here for them as we go forward. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens there. All right, the last one, this one's a little trickier. And, I debated whether or not to include him because I'm not 100% convinced that he's going to end up being a first-round draft pick. But I did want to include him because he's been in the news and obviously is a player that is going to get attention regardless because of where he's playing. And that is Adam Valentini, who accelerated to go to the University of Michigan. Initially, he was going to go play for Kitchener in the OHL this year. Michigan has a spot available. He goes and takes it a year earlier than expected. Last season, we saw Cullen Potter become a first-round draft pick, last pick of the first round. He had 22 points for Arizona State University last year as an accelerated freshman. Adam Valentini, over or under 22 points?
Under. I'm taking the under. I'm taking it quick. I'm not even hesitating on this. I didn't love the move for him. Michigan has so many young players already, and he, unlike Cullen Potter, who had elite speed and was going to a system that really allowed him to run wild with that speed, Valentini does not have elite speed. He's not a big player, and he's up against some more established, slightly older, talented players too. So I don't see where he's going to get the deployment to even push for 22 points. Let alone, I don't think his body or his speed is ready for it. So yeah, I'm going to hammer the under on that.
I'm hammering the under as well, and I think that this is, he's one of those players where I wonder if, if it starts going a certain way, if maybe
Go to
there's
Kitchener?
a decision to go back to junior. Although I think that they negated that trade, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they did. It won't be
with
Kitchener.
Brampton. So
Yeah.
we'll see. But I mean, I think, again, and it's just because Michigan is so young, and we'll talk about them a little bit later. All right, let's go to the drafted players now. We're going to talk about some drafted guys. The freshman class, as star-studded as we've ever seen. I'm going to go with some of the guys that came from the CHL and then one of the top players from the USHL. And I'm going to give you in some cases, lofty, comparables. And in each case, these are comparables of players, maybe not necessarily positionally, but have some similarities in some way, shape, or form, and are, using the seasons from when they were at that age. So it's not quite one-to-one comparable, but we're going to start with Michigan State's Porter Martone. We've talked about him a lot on this here podcast. He is a very fascinating player. Him in college hockey should be fascinating as well. The guy that I kind of looked at, and now Porter's bigger than this player, but positionally similar, in terms of overall offensive attributes. Ryan Leonard in his draft +1 season as a freshman at Boston College had 60 points. Will Smith, by the way, was on his line, had 71 points as the center. As a true freshman.
That was fun.
Still crazy to think about.
Yeah.
So Porter Martone, can he hit 60 with the Michigan State Spartans this year? Over or under?
They're going to be a wagon. That team's going to put up some points this year. And Porter's going to be playing a big old role in that too. He's getting frontline minutes, first power play minutes. You know what? Give me the over. Give me the over on Porter Martone. And that's a swing because, goddamn, getting 60 points as a first year in the NCAA is no easy feat. But I like this kid. He knows how to score. He knows how to set it up. He's got the body, right, to step into that league. I'm going just a hair over. Even if it's 60 and a half, they give him like a half apple or something, a third assist.
I think it's absolutely possible. I'm going to take the under, but I'm going to say it's going to be 55 points, which is a huge total for a freshman. I think he's going to be, a really key player. I think he's going to feast on some of the weaker teams, but he's also going to be a guy that's a factor against the stronger teams because he won't be pushed around. He's a really interesting player. I think that Michigan State with him and with the guy that we're going to mention next are in a really good place as a hockey club. To me, they're not ranked number one. I think they're the best team on paper in college hockey this year. They do have a couple of injuries coming out of camp that are going to potentially hamper a little bit. And, I think a lot, and again, like there was a period of time where we thought they were also going to bring back Isaac Howard, which would have been insane if you add that, to the powder keg here. But I think Porter is going to do a lot. But let's talk about Cayden Lindstrom next. And Cayden Lindstrom, different situation, missed a lot of time last year, still getting himself back to speed. Will be making a big adjustment here to college hockey. He's in his draft +2 season. And the guy that I picked for him was not a first round draft pick, but he, and unfortunately wasn't a freshman either. This is going to be his sophomore point total. So it's not quite fair to put those two together. But Cayden Lindstrom, I've got Matthew Nyes had 42 points in his sophomore season, his draft +2 season at the University of Minnesota. He was a big time player. Cayden Lindstrom, over or under 42 points?
Yeah, tough to find a comparable for Lindstrom. A D+2 freshman top 5 pick. It's never happened before.
Right.
Give me the over on this one too. I'm taking the over on this one too because just like Porter, Cayden's going to be seeing all sorts of frontline minutes. He's got the body for it. Yes, I know he missed, a big chunk of time there last year, but he is a truck. And I think he is going to handle college hockey well. And I'm, again, another player that I'm really rooting for. So maybe that's bleeding into it. But I think he can break that. I think they're going to score so many goals. I think he's going to be involved in them. I think the 50 he can touch 50.
I think they are going to score a lot. 42 is essentially like just over a point per game for a team that's going to play what I think will be a full season. I'm going to go slightly under. I think he's going to be just below 40 points here this season.
Cautious.
It's cautious because, and I think the caution is, will he play every game? Will he be healthy enough to do it all? And this is the reason that he's here is, one, the schedule is more favorable to allow him to play more games. The travel is more favorable to allow him to recover between games. So I think there's a lot of I don't think I think it's absolutely possible that he goes over. I'm just going to lean. I'll be the conservative one on this one. I like that you're being the aggressive one, and I'll take a little bit of the conservative bent here. But he is going to be something to watch in college hockey. His size, his strength, his speed, all of these things that he's going to be able to bring to the table is going to challenge NCAA defensemen in a significant way. And as long as he stays healthy, he's going to have a real opportunity here. But you always get a little scared. All right, let's go with another big fella. Another guy in his draft +1, a guy that, maybe we didn't expect to see in college hockey. But we're talking about Big Raj, Roger McQueen. He's at Providence College, Hockey East. The guy that I picked for him is a draft +1. And again, this is another situation where I'm comparing a sophomore season because Tage Thompson played his draft eligible season at UConn and was picked in the first round. So Tage Thompson, he actually had 32 points both seasons, by the way. So Tage Thompson is the comparable. Over or under 32 points for Roger McQueen?
This one's tougher because Providence isn't going to juice up a ton of goals, probably.
I don't think so. I think you're
last
right.
year, right? Not going to be a bad team, though. Oh, gosh. I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take the under on this one, but again, not by much. I just, we'll see. We'll see how. I think Lindstrom is in a better spot to transition the year older, although birth date's probably only like 6 months difference. I'm gonna go around 30, right around 30 for Big Raj.
I think that's fair. I'm also going to take the under. I don't think it would be a disaster if he's under 32 points. I think that basically, one, we're also considering the fact that there's still health that he has to, he didn't play a lot last year. There's the adjustment. There's the style of play at Providence. Last year, Trevor Connolly, who was an offensive dynamo in the USHL, had 13 points in 23 games at Providence.
Right.
I don't think that was the system's fault or anything like that. I think it was more just that it wasn't the cleanest fit. And now we'll have to see if that's the case. What I do think Providence is going to really help Roger with is that play away from the puck. I think Nate Lehman, Ron Ralston, the group there that works really hard on the defensive elements of the game, they're going to get him to a point where he's going to be able to play a little bit more of a versatile role. But again, I think that it's not a place that is conducive to high scoring. All right, we've got two more players, and we're going to buzz through them here. This was one where I got really, really lazy on this comp because they're not size comps. They're not really, it's not the best comp, but similar situation. Cole Reschny, he's at the University of North Dakota as well. He's essentially replacing the player that I'm comparing him to, which is Sasha Boisvert, who I misidentified earlier. Sasha Boisvert, he had 32 points as well for North Dakota last season. He was one of the most important players for the Fighting Hawks last year. Cole Reschny, again, he's a smaller player, but he's highly skilled. Can Cole Reschny tickle 32 points as Sasha Boisvert did last season?
Oh yeah, no, he's gonna tickle it and he's gonna hug it and give him maybe a couple of smooches there. I think he's gonna blow right by it. I think he's pushing 40 points too. Nobody's hotter than Cole Reschny. That kid is just a rocket ship right now. Like he looked great at Summer Showcase. Like he is on the move. And I think Calgary's a real good one. I think he could pop. I think he could pop off for, above a point a game in a full season for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you there completely. I think he's a 40-point player this year. I think, I think that is well within there. North Dakota has a good roster. They probably could have, it's not amazing. They're not
top
being
10 maybe
given a ton of credit yet because of some of the guys that they've had to replace. It's also a year one for Dane Jackson as head coach, so there's a lot of uncertainty there. I think Cole Reschny is an offensive catalyst for them immediately. And, you think of the guys that they had there last year that just couldn't put it together. Jaden Perron, Owen McLaughlin, guys that left the program. Really Boisvert was the guy that was kind of holding everything together. It felt like offensively. I think Reschny can be that guy this year. All right, let's talk about one more guy. We're going back to Michigan State. We're going back to Sparty. We're talking Ryker Lee, formerly of the Madison Capitals. 2 Madison Capitals mentions in the podcast today. I always like that. Shout out to the Mad Caps. Ryker Lee. This was another one where it was like kind of tough, but I always, the guy that I kept, feeling like people were underrating Ryker is a guy that got underrated his whole career and went much later in the draft than Ryker did, and that's Jake Gensel. So I've got Jake Gensel's draft +1 at the University of Nebraska, Omaha. He had 34 points. Ryker Lee, over or under 34 points at Michigan State this year?
I mean, the Cats scored 30 in the USHL last year, which is nothing to sneeze at, right? That is worthwhile. I think he's got a far better chance of seeing ice than a kid like Valentini. 34, it's doable, but I'm going to take the under. I don't think he's Jakey Gensel. I'm gonna take the under on that, but not to say he can't go out and have himself a nice solid season in that 25 to 30 point range.
Yeah, I am also taking the under, but I think he's going to score a fair amount of goals this year. I think he's going to be a guy that he's going to get on their power play. He's going to get some opportunities. I think he's going to be like, probably close to 30 points this year. But I do think that part of it is, where is he going to end up in the lineup on 5-on-5 when you've got some of these behemoths and others? And if he ends up in the top 6, I'll change my tune. But I think he could potentially be more secondary scoring this year, and watch him for a 50 or 60 point season next year when he's got the ball. So we'll go with that. All right. So before we move on from the college discussion, I did want to throw up the USCHO preseason poll to give you an idea of the top 10 heading into the year. This is the media / also coaches and stakeholders that are involved. There's a ton of people that vote for it. I do not vote in it. But the USCHO preseason poll here is Western Michigan number 1. They had 29 first place votes for the defending national champions. BU, national runner-up, 3 first place votes. They ended up at number 2. Michigan State with 14 first place votes ended up at number 3. Denver at 4. Penn State with 3 first place votes, by the way. No first place votes for Denver, but 3 for Penn State, which may have been Gavin McKenna 3 times. I'm not sure. That's number 5. Boston College at 6, 7 Maine, 8 Minnesota. I think Minnesota has lost a ton from last year's roster, and I don't love their recruiting class in terms of their ability to replace what they've lost. Number 9 Providence, and number 10 UConn. A lot of believers in the Huskies this year. That is your top 10 heading into the preseason from USCHO. The one thing I'll say is, I think Michigan State, to me, is the best team on paper. I think Western Michigan is absolutely a contender once again this year. They got a ton of transfers. They're going to, they have Hampton Slakinski. The thing that all 3 teams in the top 3 have in common, Cam, they have 3 of the best goalies in college hockey. You've got Hampton Slakinski at Western, Mikhail Yegorov at Boston University, who's only played half a season of college hockey, and Trey Augustine.
Ripper, though.
I cannot wait for this. Is easily the most excited I've been to watch college hockey at any point.
Yeah, easy money. Trey is the difference maker. I had to submit my power ranking for the NCAA to start the season here as well, and I've got Michigan State right at the top there. Western Michigan, right? They're going to contend again. Penn State, BU. I think that's kind of your top 4. I think that's feeling pretty good about that. I feel pretty solid about that top 4. Denver sneaking in ahead of Penn State on that, despite not getting any first place votes. Well, whatever, right? Denver. They got a pretty decent guy behind the bench there that might be able to drag them kicking and screaming.
That helps. But I think I might have quibbles with the order of the 3 teams at the top, but I think that those are the 3 top teams. And Mikhail Yegorov is a guy that I'm really watching for a big year this year, the goalie from Boston University. And the other thing to keep in mind, college players are going to the Spengler Cup this year. The U.S. College Select Team is going to be picked. So you will see a number of players, whether they're American or not, on that roster You won't see World Junior players, but you'll see players representing each conference. And I think you're very good chance we're going to see one of Trey Augustine or Hampton Slakinski between the pipes for that club when all is said and done. We'll talk about that more when that gets closer, but that will be around Christmas time. All right, Cam, we got enough time. Let's go real quick through our called up challenge. I am going to give you a hint heavy one because because we've done these draft classes. We're going to talk to each other. We're going to give each other a draft class, who went number one, and then we're going to talk about who were the top 5 scorers from that class. And I decided to dip into the bag into one of my least favorite drafts.
Oh no.
And it's 2012, the Nail Yakupov draft. So this is a little bit trickier, but let's see if I'm not going to give you any hints yet, but let's see if you can get one of the top 3 players. I will say that there are 4 total players already in this draft class. What's that?
I was going to say, I got number 1 already. I know who number 1 is just from life. I know that, but go ahead. Give me your early hint here too.
The only other thing I was going to say is that there are only 4 players from this draft class that have accumulated more than 500 points in the NHL. So 4 players from a draft that was 13 years ago.
Okay, 2012. So it's Flip Forsberg. He's at the top. I know
number
this.
1 with a bullet.
I know this. He's the best player out of that class by a country mile.
Far
now,
away.
Yeah. Now. This was Morgan. Right. This was where all the D-men went. This was like Ryan Murray at 2, wasn't it? Didn't the Isles offer their entire
this was
draft
Ryan Murray
class
at 2?
for him?
Yep, he is.
Yeah.
He did not make the top anything. Yeah.
Okay, so that was Galchenyuk. He's not going to be up that high, even though he might not be that far off. I'm trying to think of first rounders here. I'm trying to think of. I mean, like Morgan Riley. Like, did he put up enough points to get in there?
He is in the mix. He is one of the 4 players with 500 points. He is number 4. So you've got 1 and number 4. We're looking for 2, 3, and 5. I will tell you that number 5 is also a defenseman. The other 2 are forwards.
Another defenseman out of that class that did anything, hey? Jacob Trouba was in that draft class.
He was, but he's a couple behind this guy.
Okay.
This player was not drafted in the first round. He's the
not
only
drafted in the first round.
Only non-first rounder not in this mix.
Oh yeah. Okay. All right. It's going to be Shane Gostisbehere.
Nailed it. Yes, Shane Gostisbehere is 5. The Gostisbehere, 412 points in his career.
Man, so I hyped him up so hard as he was coming up in fantasy hockey. I was hyping him like crazy. That's the only reason I remember he was 2012. Okay, so I need 2 more. And they're forwards.
They are forwards.
And I got nothing. I got nothing on who these guys could be.
How about I'll give you big hints, drafting teams. I'm going to give you the drafting team. They're both European.
Okay.
And then I'll tell you, San Jose is the drafting team for number 2.
San Jose, 2012, Thomas Hertl.
Boom, got it.
Thomas Hertl, 4 goals
for Hertl.
Rookie year. Jumbo talking about whipping it out. Yes,
that's
Tomas.
right.
Jumbo. Shout out to Jason Boshford.
That's impressive. Yeah.
Okay. I got absolutely nothing on this last one.
Last one is a Finn.
A Finn from 2012.
Drafted by the Chicago Blackhawks.
A Finn, Chicago Black, Toivo Teravainen.
Yes. So one is Philip.
I needed some help on
681 points. No one is within 130 points of him.
Wow.
Hertl has 549, Teravainen 517, Riley 513, Gostisbehere 412. And you look at some of the other guys that were in that draft class, just to go through it real quick. Tom Wilson, Alex Galchenyuk, Jacob Trouba, Chandler Stevenson, Damon Severson, Hampus Lindholm, Tanner Pearson, Jacob Slavin, Colton Parayko, Alex Kerfoot, Brady Shea, Scott Lawton. I mean, there's a lot of NHL players. There's a ton of guys that have played over 700 games in the NHL, but not a lot of point producers.
Yeah.
So there you go. Whew. All right, my friend. Now I'm scared. I'm scared.
Yeah, I should give you a really hard one after that. That was tricky. I was thinking beat.
You nailed that though.
1986. Yeah. Okay, so All right, this class here, okay? We're kicking it pretty recent. I'm keeping it recent. I'm going to help you out. 2020. 2020. We were at that draft? Or was that? No, that was a COVID draft. It's a COVID draft?
Oh,
Must have
yeah.
been.
Was this the
Must
wait, was it
must
are
have
we
been
talking was this Lafreniere's draft?
this was
2020?
Alexi's. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Alexi Lafreniere. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
He was at the
boy.
top of the
Yeah,
pile
this
that
is a
year.
hard one.
Okay.
What's that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not easy.
No. 2020. Oh boy. Okay. I gotta dig in. I gotta dig deep here because sometimes these more recent drafts are tougher.
Mess with you.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Is Lafreniere in the top 5?
He sure is. He's number 4. He is number 4.
I was like,
Yeah.
if he is, he's down low in the
Yeah.
top. Oh man. Yeah, it's funny. I boy, those COVID drafts really do meld your mind a little bit here. Let's see. Was that so 2019, 2020? Man, I'm struggling mightily here with this. I'm trying to think.
Who went? These are no weirdos. No weirdos in this one. Everyone's a top 20 pick. In the top.
Everyone was a top 20 pick. I wish that would help me.
Yeah.
Because I think back to just like where even were any of us at this point. So top 20 picks in this draft. Shoot. All right.
Who went?
Yeah, I'm like drawing. Like my brain is definitely.
Do you remember who went 2 that year? Who went after Alexi? I had him 1 on my board.
Wait, number two. I was. Yeah, now I'm mixing up 2021 again. So
okay, I'm going to tell you this. It was Quentin Byfield, but he's not among the top 5. But I'm just trying to give you some.
Yeah, that's
some
that's
runway
right.
there.
Jeez, okay,
Lafreniere, Byfield.
Yeah. Let me see. Is Cole Perfetti in this group?
Cole Perfetti is in this draft class, but he is down low. He is down low.
I was like, that can't be. That can't be.
Yeah.
Gosh, terrible guess. Tyson.
Okay, the number 1 guy here, he was a lotto pick, and he's for a Canadian team.
Lotto pick for a Canadian team. Canadian team 2020.
Euro kid.
Euro.
Has a
Man,
great
this
nickname.
Is terrible. Great nickname. Oh,
yeah, superstar.
Is it great nickname? He's a superstar.
That's the nickname.
Oh, superstar.
Yeah.
Who's superstar?
Timmy Stützle. Timmy Superstar.
Oh God. Okay. So Tim Stützle.
That's the one. That's the one. They got 1 and 4 now.
I don't know. See, that's brutal. Just this is awful. This is an embarrassment to the craft. Who else we got? Let's see. So Stützle. So we got Stützle. We got Lafreniere. We've got. Do I have 2?
We got. Yeah, we got a Swede. And 2 more Canadians in there.
A Swede and 2 Canadians. Okay.
This Swede popped off for 80 last season.
Swede popped off for 80 last year.
Oh,
yeah. Lucas Raymond. Yeah. Okay.
Thank
so
you.
Lucas Raymond is in there. We're back on track. We're feeling better. I needed the gravy hit.
You're rolling now.
How
about this? How about this?
Canadians.
Yeah. One of them played at the 4 Nations.
Oh, 4 Nations.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite players.
One of yours?
Yeah, one of mine. His bros may or may not have driven like 20 hours to come watch him.
Oh man, his brothers did, huh?
His buddies.
Are they famous?
No, just as well. His boys were famous after doing that.
Yeah, that's right. And I can't think of it at all. Wow.
Who's the young kid on Team Canada? Who was it?
The youngest player on Team Canada
There's only one youngster.
Yeah, I know. And why? This wasn't Robert Thomas, was it?
No.
What am I thinking? Man, I'm terrible. I'm so bad at this.
Plays for the Hurricanes. I'm giving it to you.
Oh shoot, Jarvie.
Yeah.
Seth Jarvis. I totally forgot he played at the Four Nations. I have no recollection of anything. This is my short-term memory has gotten way worse at 21 or 41.
At 21.
Oh, so Jarvie won.
All right.
I quit. I'm terrible.
Yeah. Dawson Mercer at number 5, just a whisper ahead
you
of
could have given me 50 guesses and I wouldn't have gotten it.
There's JJ Peterka in that mix, Jake Sanderson, Marco Rossi. That kind of rounds out the top 10 or so.
I feel like if the COVID draft, both the COVID drafts maybe didn't happen. Maybe they didn't happen in my brain.
We're not sure
or I forgot.
I'm not entirely.
So that's complete embarrassment. And that's everybody else at home. You won a prize and you're yelling at me right now. All right. We got to roll since I took forever to do that. But let's talk Beyond Belief now, Cam. Get to our Beyond Belief segment while I try to shake off the sting of the called up challenge, which you absolutely smoked once again. All right. Let's start this one off. We're talking college hockey a little bit. This one I think is actually easy to answer, but at the same time, maybe not this year. The Hobie hat trick will feature 3 freshmen this season. Cam, Beyond Belief, or is it believable?
Beyond Belief. Beyond Belief. Beyond Belief. They love their elder statesmen. It is not just on ice, as many people believe it to be. It's not just the MVP of the team. You have to be involved in the community and be a leader and do all these things. And more often than not, that hat trick, even if a freshman can take it home, usually has at least one elder statesman in the mix. So I'm going to say Beyond Belief.
I agree with you. I think that there will be one. I actually think that there is as good a chance as ever that a goalie will be in the top 3 here. And not any of those guys are true freshmen. Although Jack Ivankovic, but I don't think so. So,
Trey.
All right. Yeah, I'm with you. That was an easy one. I think that's an easy one. There's always going to be, an upperclassman, it feels like. So anyway.
U of M, the University of Michigan, is going to have a better season than their number 12 ranking here in the preseason suggests. Do you think they're going to be able to outkick their coverage on that 12 hole?
I'm going to say that this is also beyond belief. However, what would make it believable is if Jack Ivankovic steps into college and is just all world right away, which I think is a tall order for the player. However, it's not beyond the realm of possibility. My thing with Michigan this year is that the way that they have been built is that they're young and their blue line is very redundant in terms of the kinds of players they have on their blue line. You think about guys like Henry Muse, they have a very offensive focused blue line. I think in the modern NCAA, that has not proven successful in terms of reaching higher levels. They're going to need their goalie to stand up big time. I don't think they have the guy, even though Michael Hage, I think, is going to be a superstar this year in college hockey, I don't think that he can carry that whole team to the heights that are necessary. I think that Michigan is at real risk here of this being more of a rebuilding year and hoping that they retain some of these guys. I think guys like Malcolm Spence are going to help them. That's a good identity player. They did go into the transfer portal and got a defenseman named Ben Robertson who, is not redundant on their blue line. Is a guy that's going to help them defend. I just don't think there's enough of it, and I don't think this team is built to compete in the modern NCAA, which is still older and still bigger and stronger and grinded out. So it's beyond belief for me.
Question: can Ivankovic just wear a Team Canada jersey all the time at school, and then we'll see him standing on his head? Like the Mighty Ducks, they can just come out in the Ducks jerseys.
It will. Quack. It clashes with the maize and blue, but I would definitely recommend at least wearing a Hockey Canada T-shirt under that. So that's what I would suggest for him.
Yeah.
All
nice.
Right. Okay. All right. So here's one. We're going to go back to NHL training camps with this one for Beyond Belief here. At least 3 2025 NHL draftees will make the NHL out of camp. At least 3.
Easy money. Believable.
Yeah.
Probably 4. Hey, maybe even 5. I don't even know who the 5th guy would be, but it could be
crazy.
But yeah, I'm going right. Mies, Schaaf, and then at least one of Coots or Martin is probably going to push and see NHL games to start the season.
Yeah. Doesn't mean they'll stay there the whole time, but if they break camp with the team, that's a huge accomplishment for guys that have just been drafted. So I'm going to agree with you on that one.
Okay, last one. We will see colleges let their players attend NHL training camps next year. That's a big one.
That is a big one, and I think it's going to be a conversation, but it's beyond
Layered.
belief for me for this year. And why? I think they're going to have the conversation because we just saw USHL players go in, get these opportunities that the college guys couldn't get. Is that going to be used against them in recruiting? Is that going to be something? But here's the thing: classes start in August for most
Exactly.
schools. There's no way around that. You have to maintain eligibility. You can't just like Jack Pridham was with the Blackhawks this year in camp. He's going back to the OHL this year, but he's still committed to play college hockey. He would go into training camp, play in preseason game this year, but not have that opportunity next season. It's unfortunate, but that's the nature of the schedule. And if the NHL moves their preseason up and if they do certain things like that, it might give them at least a chance to go in for rookie camp and something like that, maybe. But again, these players have to go to classes, do all those things through the first half of that season to make sure that they're eligible for the most important part of the season, because that can happen. We've seen players lose their eligibility at the halfway point of the season, and it is a disaster for them because there's really no recourse. They have to go back to junior. They have to start all over. It's just not going to happen. So
I'm with you.
I do think that there will be a discussion about the logistics of that, just because I don't think that the NCAA wants that to, or the college coaches don't want that to become a detriment to their recruiting. I just don't see it happening.
Yep, I'm with you. I agree.
All right. Yeah. Go to class, kids.
Yeah, stay in school.
Yeah. So anyway.
Say no to drugs.
We give nothing but the best advice here.
Right?
All right. Very quickly. This is going to be the debate that we're going to have for years to come in terms of what is the best thing in terms of building college. We just talked about Michigan and how they build. So in our you have to pick one segment, I'm giving you 2-player archetypes for college hockey. Would you rather have the one and done superstar draft pick a la Gavin McKenna, or a mid-tier player that will play for your program for 4 years, Cam Robinson?
One and done superstar a la Gavin McKenna, and then I would replace that with another one and done superstar a la Gavin McKenna, because I just proved that I can bring one in, shepherd them into the NHL, and then recruit the next one, and we'll consistently have my superstar player filling my seats, selling my merch, and hopefully pushing into the Frozen Four. Boom. Roasted.
Yeah, I still think that attracting the star player, as we're seeing with Gavin McKenna, the boost that gives to your program, the way, like, they sold out, I think they sold out their student tickets in 8 minutes, I believe. It might have been less than that.
I love that.
And so, that's a really great thing for your program. It is you put those guys on anything in your dressing room. It helps your recruiting. What I will say is that will help you continue to get those players, and you'll end up in the cycle that Cam's talking about. I'm just going to keep getting this guy and getting this guy and getting this guy. But you look at programs like Western Michigan last year. What did they win with? They won with veterans, but they still needed that start. Alex Bump was a star player for them, but he was a 2 and done. And Hampton Slakinski was a freshman last year, but he came back. So program continuity matters. You can't have a team full of 1 and dones. You can't have a team full of 2 and dones. But those are the guys that give you the headlines, that make other players pay attention. And at Penn State, it has completely changed the dynamic of what they can do. And I think at Michigan, having Owen Power, having Matty Beniers all in that same year, the most unprecedented, now we have that. That's going to become a regular occurrence because those guys chose college hockey. So it'll be very interesting to watch. Cam, it's crazy. We're here, but college hockey, the first games start the first weekend of October. So we're doing this a little early. So first weekend of October, stay tuned for that. We have Atlantic Hockey America on FloHockey. We'll also have some of the Division I independents this year. So you will be able to see a number of those games, those home games for those teams on FloHockey this year. But man, we're right in the thick of it. NHL regular season starts in a little over a week. Cam, what can we be expecting from you guys at Elite Prospects as we head hurtling recklessly, carelessly into the season?
Reckless indeed. Like I mentioned, I've got the scout poll coming out tomorrow. That'll be Friday morning. We're turning out lots of stuff. I'm excited. I got a little trip to Sweden coming up. EP's bringing me out. We got a little Elite Prospects conference. Going to be some fun stuff. I'm excited. Obviously going to have to check out some hockey over there. Maybe catch in a little Vigo Bjork scouting. We're going to be doing all sorts of fun features. I got some times at Michigan State coming up too later in the fall. we're going to be producing a ton of good content over there, obviously, and just keep rolling it out.
Yeah, it's great to hear. And obviously over on Flow, we're going to have a ton of stuff. We've got a bunch of free games available for fans too. If you want to check them out on Friday nights, it's the OHL. Thursday nights, the Q. Saturday nights, you'll be able to see our AHL games as per usual. Sundays, often USHL, and you'll see their games kind of float around. So keep an eye out on Flow's socials for those free games. Also, get that annual subscription. You heard it at the beginning. Hockey hits harder on Flow. And also, if you buy that annual subscription, you're basically saving 7 months worth of subscription dollars if you're paying for the monthlies. Great value. And with the AHL, OHL, QMJHL, USHL, college hockey, the SHL, if you're in the United States, and a lot of these other junior leagues, there is no more hockey anywhere in streaming than there is on FloHockey. So we're really, really, really excited for this season ahead. The best is yet to come. Cam, man, it has been a fun off season, but boy, is it fun to be in it and back in the thick of it. And it's great to be spending time with you. So for all of you listening, we want to say thanks very much. Remind you to subscribe to the podcast, leave us a kind rating review on your app of choice. Check us out on YouTube and on the FloHockey, Flow Sports app. Lots of different ways to interact with this podcast. Looking forward to some more things like listener Q&As. We're going to do a lot more interactive stuff. So plenty coming your way. But boy, we're just getting started here. So want to say thanks to Amanda for producing today. Huge thanks to Cam for chipping in. This was a fun episode. The over-under thing, that was a blast. So these are, we love to see it. So Cam, thanks a bunch. And thanks to all of you for watching. That is going to do it for us here on Called Up the Prospects podcast. My name is Chris Peters for Cam Robinson. We'll see you next time.
Beauty. Perfect timing.